Hi, this is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today what we're going to do is we're going to use the Big Chief smoker to pre-smoke a small chuck roast. Now first, let's show you the chuck roast. This is a small chuck roast, and this is a little 2-pounder, and I just put a little bit of cow cover and a sprinkle of pepper on it. I kind of kept it a little light because we will be putting it in the oven with a little bit of beef stock and Worcestershire sauce to finish it. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and set this on the rack. So we'll talk about the rack really quick here. What we have is a standard drop-in rack for the top load Big Chief smoker, and I like to keep most of my food right here on the second shelf from the top. It's a good place to get a good amount of air circulation, and then I also get a good idea of consistency for cooking. Now, if you're cooking a bunch of salmon and you're using the whole thing, then you might have to flip the shelves around during your cooking process a little bit. But for this, one shelf, and we always get the same results. This one is a 2-pound, so it is a little small, but that'll work really nice to get it done in a shorter amount of time. What we want to do is we want to hit it with some smoke, and then we want to transfer it to another cooking device. And the reason is the Big Chief smoker runs at about 165 degrees. Now it does depend a little bit on your outdoor temperature, and right now we have a medium temperature. It's a cool fall day and we're in the middle of the day, so we're not particularly cold right now, and it is running really nice. Before I start the whole process, the first thing I do is I put a small pan of wood chips in there just to get it going and to make sure that it's completely pre-seasoned, just in case I cook some fish or something else that doesn't have a similar taste. A little coat of smoke will eliminate all that right away. When I place the chuck roast on the tray, I always use a grill mat. This makes it easy to move around and also keeps it nice and flat on the tray. Again, these are dishwasher safe, and this is one of my favorite accessories that everybody should have for all their uses for whatever they're doing. Another thing that I like to do is I like to put a piece of foil down near the bottom. And I'll show you this real quick. It's just a piece of generic foil. And I make a little tray out of it, and I set it directly underneath the meat. And then most of the drippings will fall into that. And then I can just throw that out. Now, I have used this one once before for another chuck roast that the video didn't turn out so good, but the food was great. And at the end of the video, I'll show you a couple pictures of that one that I'll include with this one also. Today, we're just going to do the straight chuck roast without doing all the fixings. But in the last chuck roast that I did smoked onions, and I also did potatoes and carrots like you would do with a pot roast. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert this in. So it's ready to go. I'm just going to lift the lid here. And you can see the smoke is coming out, but it's just about burned out. So I want to mention that on the rack, there's 4 feet. Those feet come all the way down and through the bottom. There's holes in each corner, and the feet sit down on the ground, not applying any direct weight to the smoker itself. Because of that, you want to make sure it's on a solid, fireproof surface. I just use some yard bricks to set the whole thing on, and that gives it a little bit of a lift, which also keeps any possible chance of any issues underneath. Now, in the past, I have modified one by placing a hole and putting a propane burner there, but when I used it for electrical, there was enough heat that it actually burned the wood underneath. So you do not want to place this directly on a flammable surface, and definitely not on a resin table or something. It'll just melt it completely. So it's running pretty good now, and you can see there's still just a little bit of smoke coming out. Here's the tray, and this is what's left. I'm going to go ahead and dump that in the fire pit real quick. So here's the empty pan. I'm going to go ahead and set that down. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a fine wood chip just to make sure that it starts really quick. After I pour it in, I spread it around just a little bit, and I'll go ahead and show you that. That way it's evenly distributed. Make sure you don't touch the pan because it is really hot. And normally what I use is some regular Smokehouse Products wood chips, which is the same company that manufactures the Big Chief. They make a nice variety of wood chips, and they work really well with their smokers and any other electric smoker for that point. If you want faster smoke though, you might consider the Cameron's wood chips, and they are a little bit finer and they'll burn and start quicker. However, they won't last as long if you want a smooth, longer smoke. So it's kind of a trade-off. The more coarse it is, the less smoke you'll have and the longer it'll last. The same thing with wood chunks. They also make wood chunks that work out well. I'm going to go ahead and fill this. I like to make a little mountain. It doesn't burn really well on the outside edges. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert that in there. For the amount of time that we'll be smoking, that's more than enough chips. We're only planning on smoking for 30 to 45 minutes. We don't want to smoke too long because we want to get it to a more suitable temperature for cooking. And with beef, we can push the limit a little bit. If it were something like chicken, you certainly wouldn't want to push the limit at all. So today, we went ahead and used mesquite. And the reason I used mesquite is because we are cooking with such a short time, I want to hit it pretty hard. Now again, I put a little bit of the fine wood chips down in the bottom just to get it a good start. And those will smoke up really fast, so they'll be a little bit more intense smoke. And then it'll switch right over to the mesquite above it as it burns through. If I were going for a longer smoke, I would use something more mild, like let's say a apple or a cherry. But because I'm only going to be smoking it for 45 minutes, I want to use as strong a smoke wood chip as possible. So I'm going to sit here and watch this for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to prep the pan. In that pan, I'm just going to put 1 cup of beef broth and a dash of Worcestershire. Maybe I'll add a little bit more pepper and garlic on the top, depending on how it looks when it comes out of the smoker, but probably not. Then I'll wrap it tight with foil and put it in. So when I'm ready to do that, we'll be back. And that should be about 45 minutes for me and about 3 seconds for you. So time is up and we are still smoking just a little bit here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the smoke is just rolling out of the edges, which is perfect. And the temperature is nice and warm, which is good. We want to make sure that we're food safe. So bringing that temperature up is definitely a good thing. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to prep my beef stock. Now this is a little bit more beef stock than what I need for that, but not a lot. Now for a little added touch, you could always add a half a cup of your favorite barbecue sauce to this, whether it's homemade or store-bought, which I actually prefer a store-bought brand myself. But we want to add as many layers of smoke to this. So if I were to use store-bought, I would probably use the hickory because that definitely gets a smoke flavor. But of course, my favorite smoked ingredient, which I do not smoke at home, is smoked paprika. And so I'm going to add a few shakes to this, about a half a teaspoon. And if you really wanted to, you could sprinkle a little more of this on your roast itself. But I just want to add it to the liquid here so it mixes well. Next, I'm going to use some of my home smoked salt. This is just regular kosher smoked salt. And you can find a video on my channel for how to do it, but it's really simple. You just lay it out on some parchment paper and put it in your smoker, and then it takes on this wonderful smoky brown color. And you can smell the smoke in it, but it's not overbearing. So you can use it on pretty much anything, except popcorn. My wife wouldn't like that. So this is about a teaspoon. Maybe go a little more. I didn't add any salt to the rub on the meat. I did use a premix cow cover from Cosmo Brands, and it has some in it. Then With beef, I always like to add Worcestershire, and let me be honest, I like to add it to just about everything. And there is a little bit of salt in there and some soy flour. So you don't want to overdo the salt at any point. I'm going for about a tablespoon or more, and that should be perfect. I'll just give that a little stir. And then I'm going to go ahead and pour that in first. Now this roast is going to be a tight fit. I'm using a small pan here. It was either go small or go way too big. So when you open it, look at that. A lot of smoke still coming out. So you can easily reach in here at this temperature, but if that's a concern, then use a hot glove. And just pick the whole thing out. And I'm just going to set it here for now. This is still going. I'm going to show you this really close. You can see it's not cooked, but it has taken on some smoke. The color has definitely changed like it's been in the smoker. I just set that down in the liquid. I'll take these inside and throw them in the dishwasher. And this, we'll just set it right back in here. Now I'm going to wrap this in foil and toss it in the oven at 275. This size of piece will probably need about 2.5 hours, but normally I use a much larger piece, so I'm normally cooking it at about 3.5 hours, and I do temp the inside. I'm going for a temperature up to about 180. It depends on how you want it done though. You can definitely cook it a lot lower and go with a rare temperature. But I would raise the cooking temperature and shorten the cooking time if I were planning on doing that. So I'm going to go ahead and show you some pictures. First, I'm going to show you pictures of the last one I did, and this one has the onions, which were smoked along with the meat, and then it has potatoes and carrots, and that's a traditional pot roast style. I did that in actually a roaster pan with a lid that I would do a small chicken in, or the same like I showed you there with the roast. And then this one here, we'll go ahead and pop a picture there, and I'll cut it up a couple of slices so you can see how it's done, and then you'll know. Now, this adds that nice touch of smoke and without actually cooking it in the smoker. So we did put a little smoke on it, and we used some smoked ingredients that we prepared that you can either prepare yourself or buy from the store. It's easy to find things like cherry smoked salt in the store. If you want a specialty flavor, it gets a little bit more difficult, like apple or something like that. But there's no reason you can't just make your own on a piece of parchment paper in a Big Chief smoker. So if you saw anything you like here, I have my affiliate links in the description below. We'll get compensated for. The first link will be a recipe for the smoker, and the second will be the review for this smoker, and then below that will be all those affiliate links. So don't forget, if you don't use grill mats, you should. They make your life so much easier. It doesn't matter whether you're smoking cheese or beef or anything that you want to keep in one piece, and it makes your life so much easier to clean your smoker. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.